I wrote stuff down this time, so hopefully things will go over well. Hi everybody, my name's Abby. Welcome to my channel. This video is ways to help anxiety. I voted on my Instagram. Follow me on my Instagram, please. It's right here. Thanks. If you wanted to see this video or what was the other? Oh, my story time on getting on anxiety medicine. So we can still film that video. I actually kind of want to share that story because I think it's funny now. First off, I'd just like to share a disclaimer with everybody. I'm not a professional, so if you really feel like your anxiety is impeding your everyday life, please go to a professional because I'm not one. I don't have any sort of anything, really, other than my own knowledge. My first thing to help you control your anxiety is figure out what triggers your anxiety. So, for example, when I'm driving, I get anxiety. Whether it be anxiety that I'm going to die in a car accident, get pulled over and have to pay a ticket that I don't have money for, lose my license, scary thought, you know, things like that. I also sometimes get anxiety when I'm going to work, like, oh my god, I'm gonna get fired, something. A lot goes through my head then. But I know people can have social anxiety where just like interacting with a cashier or something, or calling on the phone gives people anxiety. A lot of different things give people anxiety, so you need to find out what triggers your anxiety, when you're experiencing anxiety the most, right? Because if you don't know where the problem is coming from, you're not going to know how to fix it, right? So once that's all figured out, the way my anxiety works, I feel like, is I have two types of anxiety. So I have like an everyday sort of anxiety, which for me personally is more like anxious thoughts and feelings. And then I have more extreme anxiety, which doesn't happen much often anymore, and that's sort of the physical aspect of my anxiety, that when I start to feel that extreme anxiety or physical anxiety is when I feel like I'm about to have a panic attack or something like that. I'm gonna talk in those two separate groups. So first we'll do my everyday anxiety, because that's the anxiety that I deal with the most, I would say. So for my everyday anxiety, I think things over and over again. Like I said with driving, like I get in my car and I go down the street and I'm like, I'm gonna get pulled over. You know, this is gonna happen, blah, blah, blah. You know, just negative thoughts on repeat. So the first way to help combat that is tracking your thoughts. So if you know every time you go to the grocery store you have anxiety, you're in the grocery store and you just keep thinking like, I don't know, I'm gonna see somebody that hates me, as an example. So you oftentimes, for me personally, and I think this is how it is for other people with anxiety, often you repeat the same anxious thoughts in your head, and then you build like one issue up really big. So if you're tracking your thoughts, you can write it down in the notes in your phone, write them physically down, or just like keep a mental note of them, which is like the least one I would say, because then it's still in your head. So when you write down your thoughts, in the future you're so much more able to combat them, which is the second way of helping your anxiety. So for example, I know not every time, but most times when I go to work, one of the thoughts that keep coming up in my head are, I'm gonna get fired. And then I'm gonna get fired, or it's not even that. A thought that comes up in my head is, I'm gonna do something wrong today at my job. So then I think, well, and that's gonna escalate and I'm gonna get fired, and then I'm gonna have a really hard time finding a job that I'll be able to have all year round, because I'm a college student, so during the summer obviously I'm back at my house, and then during the school year I'm at college. So it's kind of hard to keep a job that will let me transfer. But thankfully right now I do have a job, which is why in my head doing something wrong at my job is going to get me fired, and then it's going to have me unemployed, and I need money. Hello. So when I hear in my head, like, I'm going to do something wrong today, I can now recognize and stop myself and say, Abigail, you've rarely done anything wrong there, and you got yelled at one time, and you still have this job, and you've kept this job for a long time, and every time you get a review, it's straight perfect review, and you basically just recognize the negative thought and comfort yourself, if that helps. Calm yourself down. You can also, if it helps you, think of the anxiety as another person. Sometimes that helps me when it's schoolwork or something, like, wow, I'm gonna fail this test. Instead of saying I'm gonna fail this test, I'm like, oh, somebody thinks I'm gonna fail this test, which is like my anxiety. Like, no, that's and that makes me, like, that ignites the fire and the fighter in me, and I'm like, pop, 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 no. And then I gain more confidence instead of letting my anxiety, that other person, tear me down. Once you know the general thing that causes your anxiety, and you start to recognize the thoughts that start to build up your anxiety into this thing that you can't control. If you watched my last video on my first anxiety attack, I said that I had a lot of anxiety surrounding school basically my whole life, because I thought if I didn't do good on one single test that I would fail that grade, and then I would get bad grades, and I wouldn't be accepted into colleges, so I would be stuck at sort of a dead-end job, or a job that I didn't want my life to be stuck at. Realistically, failing one test isn't gonna make you stuck at a dead-end job, but that's just how my anxiety, when it controlled me, how it built up into this big thing that I can't control. So once you, like, sort of nip the anxiety in the bud with talking yourself down or pretending like your anxiety is another person and sort of showing that person who's boss, because you are the boss of yourself, that should help anxious spurts, per se, like the times when you start to get those thoughts. And I think thoughts are a big part of anxiety, and if you can get them and wrangle them around and before they get too big to handle, you're good. You can deal with it. And if I can deal with it, you definitely can deal with it. So another tip for sort of everyday anxiety is to keep a self-care routine. Depending on how bad your anxiety is, like, you can give, like, okay, I know 20 minutes in the day at night I have set aside when I come home from work, 20 minutes, they're just for me. I'm gonna read a chapter in my book, I'm gonna put on a face mask and listen to some calming spa music, I'm gonna watch a couple YouTube videos, I'm going to write some poems, which, by the way, is another thing that I think helps me personally, but I know it doesn't help everyone. I'm trying to keep these tips sort of general-ish. Writing your thoughts and emotions down is a good way to keep track of them, I think, and then eventually you can turn them into something that maybe you want to share with other people, which is always good, because sharing is caring. Side tangent, done. You know, just take 20 minutes each day, or 10 minutes, or whatever you have, for yourself, because when you care about yourself, you start to feel like you're worth it more, so when those thoughts come back, you're not like, you're right, I am gonna fail this test, or you're right, I am gonna get fired, I'm a fuck up, you know? You're like, no, I'm smart, you know? I read every night, that's gotta do something. Or, you know, like, I'm worth this face mask that I bought at Ulta, or even this face mask that I bought at CVS, you know what I mean? So, there's that. And if you're a guy, I know I was using, like, sort of more girly self-care tips, but if you're a guy and you're watching this, first out, good job. I know I feel like a lot of times it's girls that have anxiety, but maybe that's just because I'm a girl, but I feel like a lot of times also, this is definitely true, girls are the only ones that have emotions, but hello, if you're a guy, hi, I know that you have emotions and you're human too, and that's totally okay. And if anxiety is one of those, I'm really sorry you're dealing with that, because it sucks, but you can combat it as well. So if you're a guy and you need like self-care tips, and you're not into face masks or reading or writing, self-care could be playing a video game with your boys. Where we drop in. That's right, I'm cool enough to know that. Self-care for guys could be watching, like a guy thing would be watching Sports Center or something, just taking some time to do something that you love and you're relaxed with. Running, you know, that's awesome if your self-care is exercise, good on you. Just basically taking time out of your day to relax and be yourself. Whatever it is you're most comfortable doing, watching a movie, whatever. And, so if you don't struggle with anxiety sort of on a daily basis, and it's more like you only have social anxiety, so, you know, you're going to a work event or your friend's birthday party and there's going to be a lot of people there or whatever, or there's something that only happens like once in a while that really gets your anxiety kicking, you can still use your self-care and all the other tips to combat your anxiety. So, like, you have a birthday party coming up, the night before the birthday party, or, you know, a little bit before the birthday party, take that time to really center yourself and do your self-care activity. That also reminded me, mindfulness is kind of around this self-care, and that I could talk about for a lot more than what I'm hoping this video is going to be condensed into. So if you want to see a video on mindfulness and how I practice mindfulness and what mindfulness is and how it helps anxiety and other issues you might have, like this video or comment down below, let me know, because that's something that, one, is really hard. I still have trouble practicing mindfulness, but I mean, it works wonders for me and for other people that I know and have learned from, and that kind of stuff. So mindfulness, it's a good idea. Let me know. So those are pretty much the tips I have for everyday sort of anxiety. So now I'm going to talk about my more extreme anxiety, or my physical anxiety. So if I'm on my way to work thinking those thoughts and I don't catch them in the beginning and it starts to build up, sometimes I feel that physical anxiety of like sweaty hands or shallow breath and fast heart rate. That's something that happens to me a lot. But physical anxiety, I feel like, can manifest itself in different ways for different people, but you're you and you know your body best, so you know if, like, you know what, when you're experiencing anxiety. So again, just be aware of that when and how your anxiety presents itself. So when that happens, I like to talk myself down from that again, but it's a little bit different. It's sort of like, okay, we're gonna breathe in and out, and in, deep yoga, baby having breaths, and this, again, like, the other things are also very hard, but I feel like they're a bit easier to work on. But when you're in the midst of physical anxiety more, it is a lot harder to talk yourself down, so you really have to work at this one. But again, hello, hi, it's me. I've done this, I'm still doing this, I'm still struggle with it, but, you know, I'm feel good enough that I can share it with somebody else, so you can do it too. So, you know, talking yourself down by breathing, by telling yourself it's gonna be okay and everything passes, blah blah blah. I know that some people don't like to hear that when they're having an anxiety attack or having really bad anxiety. Like, it's okay, everything will be okay, you know. I understand that. Personally, I don't feel that way, so if you know me and I'm ever like, I'm having a panic attack, just be like, it's okay, everything's gonna pass, and I'll be like, you're right, you're right, you're right. Because that's something that I truly believe, and like sometimes I just need to be reminded of. But some people, when they're in that state, that makes it worse. So if you're just somebody who doesn't deal with anxiety, but you know somebody that does, thanks for being their friend and sticking with them. And also ask them, obviously not when they're in an anxious sort of state, but ask them when they're not in an anxious state, like, hey, I know sometimes you get really anxious, is it okay if I tell you that everything's gonna be okay, or is that something that upsets you when you're in that anxious state? So, you know, that's always good to ask them. And if you're somebody with anxiety, you should, again, really get to know your anxiety. It's not something you should be afraid of. Know that anxious person in your head and know how to combat them. So if somebody does ask you that, you'll be like, yeah, that really pisses me off, or no, like, please say that, like, that's what I need. So when you talk yourself down from the physical anxiety, it's sort of different. You need, again, telling yourself to breathe and telling yourself things that help your body relax, like stretch out or close your eyes or something like that. Another thing I really like to use that I learned from a therapist, shout out to that therapist, I don't know, I had her a while ago, but I've used this, like, still to this day. When you get physical anxiety, sometimes, like, you shake, or, you know, your heart beats fast and everything feels, well, what I like to do is tighten up your limbs or make fists and, like, really feel how that feels. Feel how that feels. And then slowly release the tension and feel how that feels. It's kind of like when you go in the shower and you take a really hot shower, and then before you get out, you put on the cold water a little bit to close your pores and that kind of stuff, and you're like, whoa. You know what I mean? That's kind of the same feeling of, like, this calm ocean washing over you. There are many different things that some people can help visualize. Again, that goes along with mindfulness and a little bit of meditation too, so again, let me know. But the tightening really works, especially in public too. You can tighten up your toes and then release it and feel how that feels, and that will help calm you down. I know it kind of sounds a little like, really, that's gonna help calm me down, but it does work for me. So if you're in public having anxiety, you don't have to be like, you can just like sit there. I'm doing it with my toes now, and you just like, toes, let them go, and just do it a couple times until you start to relax. So you're not deep breathing in the middle of Target or, you know, wherever you may be. You're just quietly and calmly getting yourself back to you. Those were about all the tips that I have. No, it's not like super many, but these are like my top ways that I help my personal anxiety. Again, I am not a doctor. This is just from personal experience and a little bit that I've learned and like watched other videos on or heard from other people. Yeah, so I hope you enjoyed that. I do have one more tip, but it's not a tip that everybody will understand or is ready for or works for. I don't know. I'm about to talk about Jesus and religion, so if you are super against religion, hey man, that's your decision. If you feel like people that are religious are stupid, hey man, that's your decision. And I respect your decision. You know, I don't think you're worse of a person or anything, but it would be great if you just, which is why I'm going to sign off for you guys now. Goodbye, and I really hope this helped you. If I can do it, you can do it. Definitely, I'm not that great. My hair hasn't been washed in like 2 days. You've got this. And my last video is down there about my first anxiety attack. Please watch it. You're great. See you later. And now, for the people who wanted to stick around for my little religious talk, I'm a Christian, and I just started to, like about a year or two ago, really get into it. I was recently baptized, and I really feel like putting my trust and my faith into the Lord has helped my anxiety a lot. And if you're a Christian too, and you're not really that into Christianity, like you don't read your Bible all the time, which I don't either, or you don't pray a lot, you should, it helps. And like I said before, if you didn't click off and you don't believe this, whether it is real or it's not real, it doesn't matter, because what you're getting from it is totally worth, you know, the hour I'm wasting in church or whatever, you know. But even if you're not a Christian or, you know, a follower, if you're Jewish, which is kind of the same thing, or Muslim or Buddhist or Hindu or other religions, diving into your religion, again, is, I think, a place that is good for anxiety, because you're not alone anymore. That's all I gotta say about that one. That's all. I hope these tips have helped you. Thank you for watching. You can subscribe to my channel. Here's my last video on my first anxiety attack. Good times, great times. My dog's not here this time. She's up in my room sleeping. So, bye.